So whenever we have a lesson that starts with positive and negative in it, of course we're always going to be evaluating, aren't we? We're going to be looking at the strengths and weaknesses of something in essence, aren't we? That's what we want to be aware of. And here we're going to talk about technology. And I guess the first thing I need to do with you guys is make sure that you're happy that this is what we're going to evaluate. The impact of technology on performers, spectators, on the sport itself, on officials, and on sponsors. So I guess the only thing to do other than to sort of crack on with that is to go, well, hang on, what do we mean by technology? So I put these images in advance, look. We're talking about things like, biomechanics and analysis, scientific analysis. We're talking about tracking software that we've got over here, for example. We're talking about wearable technology. I mean, these things used to be just pedometers and step counters, didn't they? Now, of course, whether it's your iWatch or your Samsung Watch, whatever it happens to be, does so much more. We're talking about things like Hawkeye and Eagle Eye, VAR, ball tracking software. We're talking also, well, VAR isn't ball tracking software, to be fair. We're talking also about officials' communications. Look, we've got microphone, we've got device. We could be talking about composite or titanium or carbon fiber blades that are helping people who may be an amputee, for example, take part in sports like athletics, even potentially outside of Paralympic sports and in Olympic sports in and of itself. There have been examples of that. So this is what we're going to do. Now, first things first, guys, I think I had the performer up here in white. So we're going to have a look at the influence of this technology on performers, okay? So the actual athletes themselves. What's good? What's bad? And is there anything in between? So I'm going to do the positive stuff in green for obvious reasons. So the athletes get better equipment and clothing. So that's an obvious one, right? Whether it's going to be, my marathon running vest wicks away moisture from my skin better, or it could be that I'm using a better tennis racket with high levels of accuracy. This clearly is better for the athlete. They also get better training facilities, okay? So the technology going into training facilities is improving, and therefore that might be a more consistent surface to play football on, for example, or it might be something that's got the right level of let's say, air treatment for the perfect flight of a shuttlecock or whatever it happens to be. I don't know where that one came from, but you get the idea that I'm talking about. The other thing here, and this is where that very first image is important, athletes get better quality feedback. Now, obviously, we have or will, if you haven't done it already, we'll look at feedback. But feedback is the information on which athletes actually improve their performance. And we can use the term here diagnostic. So think about that sort of player tracking device that slips in between the shoulder blades for rugby players, football players, hockey players, and so on. This leads to diagnostics for the performer, and it's very beneficial. A performer might experience fewer injuries. Okay, so for example, we can track all of their movements and we might be able to predict, look, they've done too much work this week. Let's give them a rest. We also have more inclusion. Now, the blades is an excellent example of this. What about specialized chairs for wheelchair rugby? But we can focus on these blades. More inclusion because the technology is better. That's obviously a great thing. And we also get better safety. So I'll go up here and I'll say, I've written the word better a lot, haven't I? Better safety. And things that you want to think about with safety, folks, we're talking about here things like let me go to helmets. We could be talking about PPE, personal protective equipment. The fact that cricket pads are so much more sort of protective than perhaps they were 15, 20 years ago, that of course is a great benefit to the athlete. But there are some negatives, okay? It's not affordable for all. All right, so this comes with affordable for all. This comes with segregation. Is it the case that, let's say, the nation in the Olympics is going to do best as one that can afford the most technology? Maybe. Only rich clubs and nations, and that's the same point I just made, isn't it? Only rich clubs or athletes or nations can actually undertake these protocols. Okay, so of course that's going to be a limitation. Performers are continually assessed. Think about this on a practical level, guys. Imagine that think about your lessons in school. What about if you were literally continually assessed? It wouldn't be much fun, right? You'd feel under pressure a lot of the time. You might feel that way already. But that's something that you want to be aware of as well. Athletes may feel like that. And because of all this investment in technology, we might experience things like, what did I want to say here? Let me get rid of that. I wanted to say here, weaknesses highlighted. Okay, so if someone, let's talk about a volleyball player whose match is shown in the Olympics. Say, if they've got a technical deficit in their performance, it's going to be highlighted and shared with everyone, right? So that's going to be potentially negative. Now we had this sort of greeny color for spectators. I'm going to use green for positives as well. But let's see how technology impacts spectators, folks. Spectators. Okay, and we're looking at the following positives. Okay, so we get better stadia. Nice word, stadia. It is the plural of stadium. So try and use that if you can. Nice little ending there. Spectators also get better coverage. You're probably watching certain sports on apps, streaming, even if it's on sort of cable TV, you're probably getting lots of different camera angles, quality of punditry and commentary is probably going up. This is all obviously good for people. Spectators can also expect more accurate decisions. The impact of, let's say, Hawkeye, VAR, TMO. This means that decisions are more accurate and the spectator benefits because there's less frustration, I guess. And they also get better access to performers. Okay, so if we just say better access, and what I'm going to put here is things like SM, social media. Think your Instagram, think your Twitter. These are spaces where spectators can effectively engage directly with their performers. But we also get up arrow, increased ticket prices. So this is something to be aware of. All of this technology means that the price of actually attending the thing goes up. What colour would we have for our next grouping? We had yellow for the sport. So how is this bad, good for the sport itself? What are the positives? What are the negatives? Let's go positives first. So for the sport, we get up arrow. I'm going to use that for better from now on. Feedback and analysis for coaches. Okay. So the coaches, feedback and analysis for coaches. So the coaches have more information to go on. Think about that tracking software, again, between the shoulder blades we talked about before. We also get up arrow. This is increased or better accuracy of timings. Accuracy of timing. So think about athletics, say. The exact timings of something like an athletics event or a swimming event are sharpened up through better technology. We get up arrow, better design of equipment. And there's loads of examples of this, whether it's road bikes or Formula One cars or whatever, and they kind of look spectacular, right? It looks modern and relevant, and that, of course, helps the sport to sell it as well. We also have better surfaces, up arrow surfaces. Think about the rollout of things like 4G pitches is a really nice example. I'll put that in there. 4G is a really nice example. That's in relation to pitches, not phones, obviously. We also get better experience for spectators. So they're more willing to come to the ground, and as we said before, perhaps more willing to pay more money to come to the ground, say. We also get excitement. Think about the excitement that ensues at, let's say, a football match when something like a VAR decision is pending. It gives lots of talking points too. But there are negatives for the sport. It produces unequal competition. Okay, so the sport now becomes more and more unequal because of the cost of technology. Those that can have it, those that can afford it have it, those that can't don't. We also have delays. Okay, rugby is a really good example of this. Delays while we wait for a TMO decision, delays while we wait for Hawkeye, delays while we wait for VAR, delays while we wait for ball tracking software, what it happens to be. And those delays can cause frustration, and obviously that's the point we've sort of made already, but not everybody wants and likes that. Let's talk about the officials. What colour do I have for them? Pink, and then it's going to be blue to finish off with. So our officials, what's the benefit of this technology for them? How would you feel if you were a referee in your sport these days? Interesting question to ask yourself. So benefits, they get up arrow, more help to make the right decisions, That means more decisions are correct, right? There's fewer errors. Well, that's good, right? That must be a positive. Other things, you get up arrow, better communication. Now, our basketball image right at the start showed this. The score table can communicate directly with the official. That's obviously a positive. And good decisions made public. Okay, so if a referee, an umpire, good decisions made public. If an umpire gets something right, they get praise for getting it right. And the technology can kind of prove them right, I suppose you might say there. But on the other side of that, wrong decisions are highlighted. I've heard loads of times referees, umpires being criticized because the technology proved them wrong and maybe they didn't use that technology or it wasn't available. We've also got over reliance. Maybe a referee, say, will become less inclined to actually make a decision because they might leave it more for the technology. And it's not for all. So this is obviously an elite. Oops, let me do that better. Not for, I meant to say for all, and I wrote for, not for all. And we can say it's elitist, right? Okay, so it's only available at the top end. So the same issues occur at the bottom end of this particular cycle. And guys, to finish this off, let's think about the impact of technology on the sponsor. Okay, so a lot of information here, but very reliable and very useful. So the sponsor gets increased visibility of their product. The fact that TV can show so accurately in 4 or 5 or 6K definition a particular advert, that's increasing visibility of the actual advertiser, right? It also means that we get an up arrow. In fact, let me not put an arrow there. I'm going to say if I just say it's a wider audience. Technology can stream our sports performances across the world simultaneously, a wider audience. That means the sponsor's going to be happy. Therefore, we get more sponsorship opportunities. And those sponsorship opportunities may well be particularly valuable. So more sponsorship opportunities. Wonderful. We love all that. But there are some negatives for the sponsor. We are talking about up arrow, higher development costs. Think about if you've got to put an advert out. I'm recording in 2021. It's flipping expensive to do a 6K advert, right? Development costs go up. It's not the same as back in the 60s sticking the advert in the back of the Sunday Times and it could be all pixelated, no problem. This got to be like really high-tech adverts too, right? Cost money. Adverts must be relevant for a world audience. You can't relevant for world audience. You can't, I'm sorry to pick on this particular company, I use the company all the time. You can't just go and advertise Hovis bread that's only available in the UK, relevant for world audience, because that service is not available in, let's say, Japan, for argument's sake. Therefore, it's only relevant to some people who've got that world level product. And we also get increasing cost of sponsorship, because the wider the audience gets, the more and more the sponsorship cost actually goes up. There's our evaluation. Hope that's useful. Long video. Cheers.